This is Carrigan & Company. You know, folks, I've known the College Hype team for more than 20 years. They're a local screen print and embroidery company servicing the New England area and beyond. Now, what makes the team so special is that they have more than 35 years of experience and they do all the work in-house. I love their tagline, making a difference one t-shirt at a time. Speaking from experience, I know that is the truth. Learn more at collegehype.com. Hi, everybody. It's Kim Carrigan. Coming up on this edition of Carrigan & Company, keeping me company, a woman who's on her game. This is Carrigan & Company.
Carrigan & Company is here for you. Yes, Carrigan & Company is here for you.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Carrigan & Company, brought to you by A&B Burger. So good to have you with us. A quick reminder, be sure if you don't follow us on social that you do so immediately. You can go to YouTube or any of the other social locations. We would love to have you following us. It keeps you abreast of what's going on here on Carrigan & Company. We have a really interesting episode this week. We have family visiting at my house, and I decided, wow, this would be the perfect time to maybe include some of the family members, not just for me, but for our executive producer, Dave Thomson, who have been so instrumental in helping us get this podcast up and going. Something Dave and I are both proud of, and I think all of our family members are pretty proud of it as well. So we got chatting, and we decided, perfect. This is the time to introduce the world to my sister, and she's keeping me company today. She's visiting from Missouri. This is Angie Hoelscher, and it is so good to have you on.
So happy to be here.
We just said off the air, we've been together for the last 3 days, so we really don't have much to talk about.
Kind of run out of things to say, but oh well. That's unusual.
I should say so, absolutely. Angie, as I said, is visiting with my brother-in-law, Mike, and they're here from just outside of St. Louis. They live in Jefferson City, Missouri, which is the capital of Missouri, by the way. And my nephew lives there as well. He's unfortunately not here right now. But you are here. And, you know, I think we were just laughing because, I mean, all the years that I've worked in broadcasting, you've had some kind of, you've had some kind of opportunity one way or another to be there. But never have you been on.
Never have I been on, but I have been very close to on. So we were just saying that I would come to the studio with you when you were on TV and literally sit closer than we are right now,
right,
while she was on the air. And that would be very strange because we could touch legs and they wouldn't get me on the air. They'd cut me out. So I always felt really bad about that, but they cut me out.
It was humiliating. It was very upsetting.
It was upsetting, but
I thought it was strange when you kept leaning over toward me, but you know, that was
never did this.
You know, I gotta tell you, this makes me think of a story, and this is so crazy. So Angie and I are just about 4 years apart, and if we were at a party, I would say she's older than I am, but I'm going to be nice and tell the truth, and I am older than she. I'm the big sister. But for a long time, you and I looked like twins.
Yes.
We really have looked a lot alike through the course of our life. Mm-hmm. And when I worked out here on television, you were back in Missouri somewhere.
Yes.
You remember this story.
Yes.
And you stopped, she was traveling for work, and she stopped somewhere to go to the restroom and went into this restaurant. And as she was walking through, some people stopped her and said, "I know this is crazy, but you look just like a TV news anchor from our hometown of Boston."
Yes.
And you said,
"Is
it Kim Carrigan?"
Yeah. I'm not her, but close. Yeah, close. That has happened to me on multiple occasions, though. That's happened to me more in Boston than anywhere. But
of course. Right.
So we were at the theater one night, and we were with Randy, and I don't remember what happened, but you had walked away to go to the restroom or something, and people came up the steps. I was standing in the middle of the steps, and people came up the steps and asked me if they could have my autograph. And when Randy came, no, but I said, "Well, I don't think you want my autograph." But so that's happened to me a lot of times.
Yeah, it's a strange thing, you know.
Yeah,
but
it is.
You've lived it next to me, and then you have had to take it over for a few times.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about where we're from and who we are here.
All right.
So Angie and I are only siblings, and we kind of come from a small family because Mom is an only
really.
child,
Yeah.
and Dad just has one sister.
Right.
So it's always just been you and me.
Yep.
And we grew up actually in a suburb of St. Louis, and then my dad was transferred.
Yeah.
And Angie and I moved to Jefferson City, Missouri, where we went to high school and then on to college, and then we moved away. And,
Right.
And then Angie has moved back. But life as kids together was good.
Very good. And we grew up with a swimming pool our whole life. So we had many, many swimming parties, things like that. But one thing
friends as a result of the swimming pool.
Right. We had more friends than ever. But I do want to say this, that I was younger. So, when you're way younger, 4 years younger, when we were
Kid.
10,
Yeah.
that's a little brat sister.
Yeah.
So, but Kim, our whole life has let me be the little bratty sister, and I was always with her everywhere. She took me everywhere. She dragged me around like a little puppy. I was with her everywhere because I begged, and yes, she'd say, all right. And our mother would tell me all the time when Kim had friends over to, now you need to leave them alone, let them be. So I'd sit in the doorway. Remember that? I'd sit in the doorway of my bedroom because her bedroom was directly across from mine. So I would sit in that bedroom door until she'd finally say, okay, just be quiet, come in and just sit here quietly.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
You were always the little sister.
Always
And that was
there.
okay. That was okay. But but I also took her to a lot of places where I got her in trouble
That's
because
true,
she
too.
didn't belong there until she started to get me in trouble. And then, and wouldn't you say, I mean, honestly, I think you and I were the quintessential siblings in that I was always younger. I was always older, more conservative, a little more motherly, and you always took more risks.
Yes, I would say that's very true, and still today. But I think that there was a definite difference in our personality in that way, but our personalities were very much the same as far as humor and fun went. But
When Angie was 14, she decided, this is sort of an idea of that she was a risk taker. She decided one evening that she and a good friend of hers would need to go and get a pizza. And Mom and Dad were out of town, and I was in college. And so she took Dad's car and had a little problem with it on the way home.
we had a little accident.
You had a little accident, and I had to come home from college to get her out of those problems.
Actually, Kim was at a fraternity dance.
I was.
And she was in a sorority, and my girlfriend and I took the car. I totaled it, and I was 14. And I did not want to call Mom and Dad. I was scared to death to call them. I don't know why, but I was scared to death to call them. So I had to find Kim. So I went through every avenue, through her sorority house, all her sorority sisters. So everyone was out on alert, finding you at this dance that you were at. And Kim and her date came home to take care of me that night. So,
that was my last date with him, by the way.
I've ruined a lot of those. But so she came home, took care of me, called our parents, and made sure that I was taken care of.
No, that's what you do when you're the big sister.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, sometimes these are the things you have to do. But you have tolerated much because of all of the strangeness, of my family having to move. Yeah. Randy and I got married, and of course, television moved us all over, and so we had to leave. And so you have always been very flexible in trying to come and visit and see me and my husband and my kids, and and that kind of thing. And you've brought your family to us, and so that has always been something we've appreciated. But you've also sort of made Boston almost like a second home.
Right. I love Boston. I love being here. I know a lot about it just because I've been here so much. I mean, I believe when AJ was born, I was here like once a month for a couple of first years of his life. So, and then Gracie came along, and I just stopped coming. No, I'm just kidding. the love of our lives. So no, but it literally I have been.
And then I started going to your house.
Exactly. No, but I've been here a lot, our whole lives. So.
Yeah. Great place, isn't it?
Love Boston.
Yeah.
Love Boston.
And we've taken, it's been terrific because, again, Midwesterners, all of us.
Right.
And so it's been a lot of fun to be able to introduce all of our family to the East Coast and to New England. And
it's been really fantastic.
We were out having lobster the other day up north, you know, because my brother-in-law, Mike, had not been here. And so it was great fun to have him out and about. Yeah. It's a good place to be from and to have family here and to bring them here. It's a terrific place to visit. Ange, you watch the podcast enough that you know we do this thing called the Fast Five, College Hype Fast Five, College Hype, and making a difference, one T-shirt at a time. Visit collegehype.com today. Love those folks over at College Hype. Can't say enough about them, so be sure you check it out. Are you ready? You've got 30 seconds to answer.
Okay.
Here we go. Favorite music group?
Sheryl Crow.
Who was your idol growing up?
You.
Oh, that's so sweet. God, I should have told you don't to lie when you're doing these.
That's true.
Best movie of all time?
The Way We Were.
Funniest person alive?
Me.
And who is the world's best sister? La, 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 la.
I think the Kardashians are awesome.
That's it. Pete, get the hook. We're sending her out.
Yeah, great.
All right. So listen, here, College Hype, our friends over there. They're terrific. And
awesome.
They provide us with T-shirts.
Great.
You get lots of swag when you come here to the podcast.
Yeah, you do.
So here's our College Hype T-shirt.
I love it.
Thanks to those guys. Feel how soft that
great.
is. Isn't
It is.
fabulous?
It's wonderful. Yes.
Yeah, it's
thank
great.
you. Thank
you. You bet.
Yes.
Okay, so listen. What's really fun about this podcast, as you know, is that we have more guests to bring on who are related to either myself or to Dave. Our next guest is Dave's wife.
Yes.
Now, I just so people at home understand, Dave and Sue and Randy and I have been friends for many years. We have known each other separate of the podcast, obviously. Right. And so I'll never forget, there's a wonderful story about Randy and me, finding out that Sue is more than a wife, a mother, and a teacher, as if that's not enough, fabulous community member. Sue is an author. So I'm very anxious to share with you some info about this book that Sue has written. It's so good. It lays at my house. It's a coffee table book at our house, and we want to talk more about that. And of course, Sue has been a huge supporter of us as we developed Carrigan and Company.
Right.
So Sue Thomson is coming up next right here on Carrigan and Company. Folks, I've known the College Hype team for more than 20 years. They're a local screen print and embroidery company servicing the New England area and beyond. Now, what makes the team so special is that they have more than 35 years of experience and they do all the work in-house. I love their tagline, making a difference one T-shirt at a time. Speaking from experience, I know that is the truth. Learn more at collegehype.com. This segment of Carrigan and Company is brought to you by Lucia Lighting and Design, where people in the know go for the best possible lighting and design experience. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Carrigan and Company. Great to have you with us today. We have a very special edition going on. Keeping me company today is my sister, Angie Hoelscher. She is from Missouri. She's visiting. We're doing a full family show, which is so much fun, and it's very casual, and we're just sort of laid back this week, and I'm having a great time. So I'm glad you're here.
Me too.
I'm so glad that you're here and you can see the studio and be a part of it. And I'm so glad our next guest is here as well. My executive producer is Dave Thomson, and this is his wife, Sue Thomson, someone who has supported us, from the second, we even came up with this concept.
You supported me as well, so thank you.
Well, it's so great to have you here. This is first time for you in the studio too, right?
I've walked by, but I've never been in.
Oh,
so.
wow.
It's kind of cool, right?
Yeah, it is really cool.
Yeah.
Very professional.
Can I tell you something, Sue? The first time that we did a show in here, our very first co-host was Lenny Clark, the comedian. And I will never forget this because of all people, never would I have thought this would come out of Lenny's mouth. He looks at this and he goes, wow, you'll be able to wear anything you want against this background. I was like, you're right, Lenny.
You wouldn't think
Never
you would
thought of
do
that.
Yeah.
So I said this before the break, but, our families have been friends. Sue and Dave have 3 daughters, and we're going to meet one of those daughters here in just a few minutes. But they have 3 daughters, and we have watched those girls grow up. You've watched my 2 kids grow up. And I'm always impressed by you and who you are.
Thank you.
She is, as I said, she is a wife and she is a mother of 3 fabulous young women. She is a school teacher, teaches the 6th grade.
Yep.
And frequently we have stories together, stories probably that we don't repeat, but stories that you share about the kids. And you can only imagine, Angie, when you are, seeing the world through Sue's eyes and these children.
Right.
Good and bad.
Right.
But on top of everything else, Sue is an author.
Mm-hmm. Finally.
And has written a fabulous book.
Thank you.
And the name of the book is Trevor. I'm going to hold it up here for a brief second. You were out to dinner, you and Dave were out to dinner with Randy and me. And Dave says, you guys, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but Sue is writing a book. And we were like, huh? First off, not because I wouldn't think you could write a book, but you had never said a word about it.
Well, because I hadn't really finished it. It had been 25 years in the making almost. So I was embarrassed to talk about it because I hadn't finished it yet. So
tell us about, you say it was 25 years in the making.
Yes.
So let's start 25 years ago then. And let's talk about, what was the impetus behind even writing anything?
So growing up, my mom was a huge reader. So, we would come home from school, she'd be reading, we'd go to bed, she'd be reading. So books were everywhere in my house, and I found a lot of entertainment in not necessarily the books she read, but any other books. She would buy us any book that we wanted. So I read a lot, she read a lot. That kind of became our bond. And as I was teaching little ones to write, I was like, hey, I might be able to do this. So in the back of my head, I would write little scenes and, play them out in my head. And when my mom got sick, she died of breast cancer back in 90. And before she died, she kind of asked all of my sisters and brothers and I, what are you going to do? Because I'm not going to be here to see it. And I said, well, Mom, I'm going to write a book. And then I was kind of like, oh, crud, I got to do it, So I told her I was going to write a book, and my pen name is S. Hilbury because her mother's name is Hilbury. Never met her mom because her mom died when my mom was young as well. So that was kind of the way to keep her name alive. It's my middle name, but she didn't want to name me Hilbury because of nicknames. So I just went under, S. Hilbury Thomson for my mom. Yeah. And her mom.
Nice.
So
I did not know the part of the story that you told your mom you promised her you'd write a book.
Yeah. No, I had. And it was kind of, it's a blessing and a curse to know that someone's going to pass because we got to talk about things and things that you put off and don't talk about because you don't want to be thinking about it. And she kind of, forced our hand in a way. And each one of my siblings and I had just settled into adulthood. And she knew we were all okay, and she passed. So bittersweet in the sense, we had that time. We wish she had more time, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you said something that I think is so interesting. I wonder how people write books. I will never be an author. I will never write a book. I can tell you that right here.
Yeah, the scene in the back of your head.
Exactly. Yeah. The scene in the back of your head. Was it scenes from Trevor?
Different books. I have a couple that I'm playing around with right now. One is a sequel to this, and then another one that's a little darker. And it's just as we're walking places. In fact, Dave and I were in New York, and we're walking in I think it was Central Park, and we go underneath one of those bridge tunnels, and I start narrating a scene of a book, and he looks at me, he's like, that's scary, and you should write a book. And I was like, I'm thinking of it. So fast forward, 20 years, 3 kids later, I talked about this book I had started, and, it's there. They finally said, if you're not going to finish the book, stop talking about it. Yeah. So for Christmas one year, I got an editor. Not actually the person, but I got a gift certificate for an editor who I would work with, and she kind of helped me put in and take out stuff that needed to be, or or should be gone.
Wow.
So yeah, it's pretty cool.
So let's talk about Trevor.
Okay.
Tell everybody it's a terrific story, which it actually takes place, most of it, right here in New England.
Right. Just a little bit of flashback down to North Carolina. But Matt Stone is a man who is trying to restart his life. Back in North Carolina, he lost his wife. And then later on, he lost his son. And that messes with a person. And as he's trying to escape up in New England, kind of just start fresh, he sees a little boy who is Trevor. And he thinks it's his son. And on one level, he knows it's not his son because his son has passed. But on the other hand, he can't let go. So he stalks this little boy. The little boy tries to tell his family, no, I need help. And they don't believe him until they have to believe him, and someone tries to kidnap him. So the story goes on back and forth a little bit about how they're trying to keep him safe and how Matt is trying to grapple with the fact that he knows this is wrong, but he can't get rid of the obsession. So they end up at Winnipesaukee, New Hampshire, due to another issue in the book. And that's the other place that with Dave's mom, we get to enjoy a summer camp. And it's wonderful. But I had spent the last 30 years going up there every summer, so I wanted to combine the North Shore and New Hampshire. Yeah. So I don't want to say too much more because that gives them a book. But, and it's kind of interesting. There's a reporter who comes up from North Carolina trying to keep tabs on Matt, and she gets involved.
Yeah.
And so
the book is very good. And I'm not going to say, this is your first. If this is your first writing, I can't imagine what your second book will be like. And I do mean that, and I've said that to you before, and I do truly mean that because it is really it's suspenseful, it's emotional. You write in a beautiful way.
Thank you.
So the book is terrific. Now tell everybody where you can get the book.
Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, Target, Walmart. On the internet. On the web. Anyhow, so you can get it anywhere. Yeah, and a couple of bookstores that it's in, Jabberwocky in Newburyport, Ames Farm in New Hampshire. So
it's around here. Yeah, right. Yeah. Exactly. Being sold here. Well, it's terrific, Sue. I enjoy it so much. Let me ask you, what do you think about the podcast? What did you think when Dave and I, back, I don't know, that's been almost a year.
Yeah.
A year ago, started to talk about, let's do a podcast.
Well, the two of you have always gotten along really well. In fact, way back when we brought our three girls on to Channel 7, I think, and they did
Fox.
On Fox, yeah. So they did a little piece there, and I could see right away that they had, a good relationship. So over the years, you two would keep in touch, and we'd get together. And then he said, we want to do a podcast. And just like when he decided to open up his own PR business, I was like, okay, you're going to make it work. Yeah. So, and, in the meantime, watching you guys kind of juggle and pull it all together, it's been fun, and we get to watch the show every Tuesday. When he comes home, he's like, let's watch the show. And I'm always impressed with you, with him, with the guests. So
good. I'm glad to hear that. That's a kind thing for you to say.
And of course, I share on all social.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you do. I mentioned that you are a 6th grade teacher.
Yes.
How has life changed as a teacher from the time you started to now?
Well, I started in '89, so things have changed a lot. Some for the better, some for not as good. For the most part, I just think that there's a little less deference, I guess, in terms of, when we were going to school, the teacher knew. And if the teacher called home, that was a big deal. Yeah. Right. And on that part, I try to call home, too, just to say hi, just to let them know something good is happening so that anytime there's a note going home or a phone call, there's not panic or the note gets thrown in the trash. But I think the biggest change has just been the fact that, and I have to be careful here because I love my job, and I've been very lucky to have so many nice families and nice students. But it's hard. It is hard because we have the standards to go to. We have the testings to go to, to teach towards. So I just think you have to be more careful with what you say, what you do, and the stakes are higher than they were.
Listen, I'm not going to be an author, and I'm not going to be a teacher. Those are two things that I just cannot do. But I have so much respect.
Well, thank you.
And I know
and
you
could
do too,
do
English
either.
kids.
Wow, a lot.
We've got
Yes.
kids, and our kids have gone through school, and we know how important teachers have been to our children.
Right.
And
Kids are different.
And kids are different.
I'm just going to say it.
Yeah.
Kids are different now.
They are. And I honestly, I'm so glad that our kids did not grow up with the social media
Right.
that these kids are now.
Right.
The
Pressures on kids it's unbelievable.
Very different.
You know, yeah, you mentioned the Kardashians. You know,
Yes.
when we see 6th grade and 5th grade girls trying to look and act,
Like that.
that's hard,
Yes.
you know, and it's just be little kids. Be
Yeah,
little kids.
right.
You've
Yeah.
only got this one childhood.
Right.
Take every second to be a kid.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, I understand that, and I know that you have some challenges, but I know you also enjoy it
Yeah, I
every
do.
single
Yeah.
day. I want to remind everybody again, it's Trevor. Go to Amazon, folks, and it's S. Hilbrey Thompson. It's a really great book. You're really going to enjoy it, and we'll look forward to the next one. When's it happening?
Oh, I
Not
knew you were
not
gonna
another
ask
25
that.
years, right?
No, hopefully not that long. I had a couple of glitches. I started and lost it on the computer.
Oh, boy.
And so just trying to get myself into it. This was the summer I was going to do it all. And as we said, summer went so fast.
Yeah, right.
So I've got a little bit of it started and a little bit of another one started. So I don't want to, I should give myself a deadline, but we'll see. Hopefully in a few years.
That's very good. Well, we'll have you back on
Oh,
as soon as
geez,
that
thank you.
is going to be ready.
So, thanks.
Sue Thomson, thank you so very much. You're listening to Carrigan and Company. I love the products and the people at Lucia Lighting and Design in Lynn, Massachusetts. During my most recent visit, owner Lucy Dearborn showed me their Mia Lucia Design Studio. All of the products in Lucia Lighting's new gallery are made right here in the United States and are fully customized. I guarantee you will be impressed with the wide variety of unique decorative lighting. If you can imagine it, the experts at Lucia Lighting Design can make your dreams come true. Learn more at lucialighting.com. That's lucialighting.com.
If you like rum, you're going to love Rumson's Rum, New England's most award-winning rum brand. Rumson creates distinctive and savory flavor profiles by hand-selecting and marrying the finest barrel-aged Caribbean rums. The spirits are then blended and finished in the New England Rum House. Choose from Rumson's Gold, Spiced, Grand Reserve, or Coffee Rum, which is smooth and sweet with a warm roasted coffee flavor, a hint of vanilla, and a decadent buttery finish. Find Rumson's at liquor stores or ask for it at your favorite restaurant. Learn more at rumsons.com. That's rumsons.com. Rumsons. Life lived, life enjoyed.
This segment of Carrigan and Company is brought to you by Bill Haney's North Shore Music Theater. Get your tickets to Tootsie, playing now through August the 25th at nsmt.org. Welcome back to Carrigan and Company, everybody, brought to you by A&B Burger. I'm, of course, your host, Kim Carrigan, and we're so glad that you're with us on this very special episode. This is our family episode. Keeping me company today is my sister, Angie, and she is here from Missouri. I'm thrilled that she is here and a part of it. And just moments ago, we met our executive producer's wife, Sue Thomson, and now Dave Thomson, the executive producer, and his daughter, Colby, and my daughter, Grace, are with us. Colby here on the end and Grace here. And if you listen to this podcast on a regular basis, at the end of the podcast, you hear that our social media team is made up of Colby Thomson, Grace Carrigan, and also Riley Thomson, who unfortunately couldn't be with us today, Colby's sister. But these two young ladies, Angie, they started to meet with Dave and me. And I'm not going to say Dave and I are old, but we're old. And we barely can function on a phone, much less try to put together a social media campaign to launch a podcast.
Very true.
And these young women, understood how to do it. And so we sat down with them very early in the process and said, okay, guys, what do we do? And did the two of you just feel like you were talking to Ding and Dong? I mean, how did you feel?
No. We did start talking about it really early.
Yeah, we did.
We needed to talk about it very early. But no, I mean, I feel like Colby, correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I feel like after the first couple months, then you guys were like on it. But I feel like it took a couple months, and then now we're all on it, so it's all good.
Colby, what were your first, impressions? For the discussions, went on for a long time, but then the young ladies started coming with us. They came with us for rehearsals, and then they would be here for each and every episode until the two of them had the audacity to go out and get other jobs, which was a bit hurtful. But, when you're being paid in food at home, that's kind of how it works, doesn't it, ladies? But, when we first started, I know you guys felt like, oh boy, how's this going to go?
Yeah, I mean,
Silence.
I kind of didn't know how I was going to go myself because I have never helped with the social media plan for a podcast itself. So I was just kind of really hoping that Gracie, me, and Riley would be able to help out and make it work. Yeah. So.
Yeah. What do you guys think has been some of the best moves that we've made associated with it?
I think the Fast Five was smart.
Yeah.
I feel like that was a really good play, and that it works really well on social media, but also it's kind of a steadfast in the podcast, so it's good there too.
Yeah.
But I think that was a good play for social as well. I also kind of feel like at the beginning, this is something that it's tough that Colby and I can't come every week anymore, but at the beginning when we did the behind the scenes, while filming, I felt like that was always really nice too. But obviously Colby and I can't come every week anymore, so those don't happen as much. But
right. Exactly.
I'd also probably say having Pete.
Yes.
Huge, because he's able to get us all the clips that we need. It makes our job a lot easier.
Yes.
So I think
yes,
probably the best
So
thing.
when Colby says Pete is our engineer here at Big Night, and Pete's going to join us here in a couple of minutes. I think what Colby's also trying to say is that thank goodness we have Pete, because he's a young man who guides us when these two young women are not here. And you
he guides us too. Honestly,
I mean, I'm the first one to admit that we weren't exactly sure how to go about it, and you guys, I think, would admit that we've sort of done it in an unconventional podcast way, because it's really sort of been based on my television background, maybe more than a podcast. But I think it's worked, right?
Yeah, that was something we talked about a lot at the early beginning stages, was just the idea of the podcast not being so structured, which it really isn't anymore. But originally it felt too, I remember we had these conversations all the time. It felt too structured and it felt too much like TV. And I think that since then, the podcast has really evolved, and it's very different now, and it's not what we had at all talked about at first. It's very, very different from that. And I think that's a good thing. That was a good thing, for sure.
It's much more relaxed now.
Yes.
For sure. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I also feel like our overall kind of plan has become much more relaxed. I know at the beginning there was a lot of talk about, should we do ads? Should we do paid posts? And I was kind of always on the idea that we shouldn't, and we should just kind of see how it goes. And I feel like seeing the traction that we've gotten organically on social and on the podcast itself has been really cool. Knowing that it's just come from random algorithms on social, and it's what we're doing is working, and seeing those numbers go up every week is really cool. So I feel like that was really fun.
You guys, why do you think that podcasts have become such a thing?
I honestly don't know.
Because we listen to everything in our life.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, we're watching videos, listening to things on our phone, we're in the car, we're listening to podcasts in the car. And I think that now that's become also, it's a click. It's a click away. I mean, you don't have to
whenever
be
you
home.
want to hear it, right?
You can be wherever you want to be, and it's a click away. So
I feel
it's
like also
convenient.
People don't really want to listen to ads anymore. And for podcasts, there's not commercial breaks in the middle of it usually, or if they are, they're very, very short. So people don't have as long of an attention span anymore, so they don't want to listen to ads, and they don't want to listen to that. So I feel like that's kind of changed over time, and podcasts are an easy way to do that. I also feel like for young people, watching a podcast is really fun. And the Barstool podcast, for example, I love watching those. And I think that's kind of just over time taken over radio and that kind of thing.
And the advertising that's on it is extremely targeted.
Yes.
So that's what's good.
Yeah,
so when I'm listening, I'm usually listening to getting an ad about something I want to hear about.
Right.
Yes.
So it's really, really targeted.
Totally agree with that.
I probably listen to 5 to 10 podcasts a day. And I think a big part of that is I grew up, my first phone was an iPhone. So I've always just kind of had information constantly coming at me.
Right.
And so
Right.
that's just what I've been used to. And so it got to the point where it's like in college, like if I was doing homework or if I was studying, I had some sort of music on in the background because I kind of just need that constant kind of like stimulation. And so then when I'm working now, last year when I had like my first office job, I would go through probably like 2 or 3 podcasts that I liked and then switch to music, and I always had something on.
Yep.
And now like I've just had more podcasts into my like loop, and so not only do I have stuff going on, but I'm either being entertained or I'm learning.
Right,
And
right.
so I feel like that's kind of like a way for people to just get more information is through these podcasts. And there's so many that are out there now that it's just like super easy.
Well, you
Right.
were, I have to say, of all of us putting this together, Colby was the one who listened to the most podcasts and had
Definitely.
the most insider info about what she thought would make it successful
Definitely. Right.
through. Now, I'd like to just say one thing that happened early on. Dave and I decided that we needed a jingle.
Oh God.
Oh my.
And of course, you hear the jingle each day. Miss Grace was not a fan of the jingle.
Oh my God,
This
no.
was a big bone of contention. You know, we didn't get along about this too terribly much. Grace didn't like the jingle. Now you've come to
Well, it was different. It was different though.
True.
It was
We've
very
changed the
different.
jingle
Yes.
since.
Originally, it was much longer, and it was hard to listen to. I was like, "Mom, this is not going to work."
And it was hard to understand.
Yes,
Remember,
it
I
was-
kept saying, when did they say your name?
Yeah,
And she said, they said my name.
It was longer.
So I
That
don't
was-
understand it.
Yeah, but now it's very different now. It's much
cute.
longer now.
It's really
different.
cute.
But
And I will say, like, the jingles and, like, kind of like the intro songs are, like, I think I know every single jingle to all the podcasts I
Yeah.
listen
Right.
to. And I won't even notice, but when I'm, like, I'll, like, put the podcast out and I'll be in my kitchen and all of a sudden I'm, like, singing or saying the jingle.
Thank
the
you.
opening
And you
jingle.
are
I do the
singing
same
it all
thing.
day.
And my roommates were like, what are you doing?
Right.
But then one of them was like, oh my gosh, I do the same thing. Like I listen to that every day or every week and it's just ingrained in my brain. And so whenever it just starts, you just do
That's it.
Yeah.
And that was sort of our idea. You know, we wanted something that was catchy that people would immediately associate with the podcast. That was the idea, you know. And so, yeah, it was a little kitschy.
well, I feel like now again, it's
Excuse me. Sorry.
it's very different now than it was that first
Right.
time I heard it when I told you absolutely not.
Yeah.
And I did say absolutely not, but it was very different then. So.
I feel like overall there's been some absolute not moments throughout all of it. Like,
There, at the very beginning, there were a lot of moments that Colby and I were like, guys, respectfully, no.
Yeah.
Respectfully, that's not going to work. We can't do that.
totally. Or like I'll call my dad up and be like, hey, just heard this. Don't do that one again. And he's like,
No moving forward.
okay.
Yeah.
It's a no for
That's a
me.
no moving forward.
And I must say that we have respected every word they have said, and we have immediately said, okay, we'll take that out. I've noticed that a few times the podcast has been delivered and dropped, and I listen to it, and I realize that Pete has gone absolutely not. And he's edited things out.
That's funny.
No. We're not going to have that on. So
That's why he's so important.
Yeah,
That's why
seriously.
he is so
Seriously.
important. So we are going to have a chance for everybody to meet Pete. Here in the studio, whenever guests come in, I do always joke to every single guest that I call him the voice of God because Pete is in a separate room from us, and he'll say on a loudspeaker, "Okay, Kim, go." And
Oh,
so
that's
it's,
Pete? I
That's
thought it
Pete.
was the voice.
Yeah.
You told me it was the voice of God.
He is the voice of God for us, and boy, he has been a godsend. That is for sure. So, ladies, thank you. It's been so fun. I'm so glad you guys could be a part of the show on this side. I just wanted everyone to see the two of you, and we wish Riley would be here as well because she certainly has been such a help. Dave and I have 2 other children. We have AJ and we have Bren, and those 2 have been smart and stayed out of this. So there are 2 who have stayed out of it, but certainly have been huge supporters of ours and listen each and every week. And so that's been terrific. But you 3 have really done a lot for us, and we thank you guys very much. So when we come back, we're going to meet the voice of God. Everyone should. Pete is on deck. This is Carrigan and Company.
Don't Don't miss Tootsie, the new musical about an out-of-work actor who is willing to do anything for a job. And I mean anything. On stage at North Shore Music Theater now through August 25th. Tickets at nsmt.org.
Here's a question for you. Do you have a daily skincare routine? If not, then why not? Our friends at Sienna Aesthetics Medical Spa in Beverly say that a little self-care, consistency, and a few lifestyle changes can go a long way when it comes to your skin. For example, always cleanse your face after a workout. Apply SPF every morning. And remember, never, never, never sleep in your makeup. Sometimes small adjustments and consulting with a skincare expert can bring awareness to habits that may affect your skin. Book a free consultation with the staff at Sienna Aesthetics Medical Spa in Beverly today. Go to siennaaesthetics.com. That's siennaaesthetics.com. This segment of Carrigan and Company is brought to you by Sienna Aesthetics Medical Spa. Take years off your face with the very latest technologies at Sienna Aesthetics in Beverly. Welcome back, everybody, to Carrigan and Company on this family edition. And my sister, Angie Hoelscher, is keeping me company today. And we've met my executive producer's wife and his daughter and my daughter. And now this gentleman is not necessarily blood family, but he has been forced to become a part of this family.
An honorary Carrigan. Yep.
This is Pete Hurley, and Pete is our engineer here, and he's also the person who's responsible for all those wonderful things that you see on social media, clips from the show. Pete does all of those for us, puts in fancy animation, does all kinds of fun things. And Pete, the girls, came into this a little earlier than you did, walking us through, but I'll never forget the very first day that Dave and I came, and we had a rundown to show you how we would do the show. And you were so kind, and you just stood there and smiled and looked at it, and I know you were thinking, they're doing a podcast with a rundown. What in the world is going on here?
The wheels are spinning for sure. Yeah, I was like, oh, okay.
We kept going, I hope you're not overwhelmed by this. Immediately you're thinking, this is the woman who was on TV, and now she's got paperwork. Tell me what you've thought from the very beginning.
Honestly, every podcast that I've done here, it's really been so fun to be a part of everything. It's great to sit behind the scenes and listen into these conversations. I get to learn new things, meet new people pretty much every single week with all these different shows, and kind of explore a little bit of my creativity when making these promos, and always learning new things about developing the show.
Absolutely. This one's a little different than the others that you have here.
Just a bit, yeah. I mean, I think you did a great job of creating a hybrid between kind of your TV broadcast understanding and the podcast world by kind of developing this into a variety show where you can get various personalities and different kind of things going on throughout the show instead of just one conversation.
Mm-hmm. And I call you the voice of God.
Yeah. I'm aware. I got a lot to live up to. I didn't know the voice of God had this monotone sounding voice, but yeah.
So Angie, I told you this before you met Pete, but when Pete's not doing this here at Big Night Live and these studios here at North Station in Boston Garden, Pete is a DJ.
I am, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah,
tell us about that.
So music's always been a huge part of my life ever since I was, my mom forced me into piano lessons probably when I was about 5 or 6.
My kids don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
And it's just, I've always kind of been attracted to it. I've always wanted to kind of learn and develop more into it. I met a good friend of mine in college who got me into music production, which then kind of transformed into DJing. So I've really only been DJing for probably 5 years now, professionally in Boston since 2019. I DJ'd for about 4 months, and then some kind of big situation happened that left me without a job for a couple of years. But now we're back into it. I'm kind of starting to expand my wings a little bit, traveling a little bit. So always trying to figure out how to grow and continue making this a thing. Yeah.
So when you're DJing, Tell me a little bit about the process. Tell me about how this goes down. What are you doing?
So I've been doing it long enough now where I think the most important part about DJing is to read a crowd. So the coolest part about DJing is really being able to take a group of people and being able to physically make them move based off of the tracks that I'm playing. So when I'm playing music, I'm thinking probably 4 or 5 songs in advance of the song I'm currently playing. And then what goes from transitioning between the two is every song has its own beat, so its own tempo. And you basically just have to match those tempos up, kind of figure out ways to transition between the two, fade one song to the next song, and then you're already into the next song. Keep the groove going all night long.
So when you're playing music and people are just sitting, do you know that's not the right music?
Yeah. And every DJ, I feel like every DJ probably has in their back pocket songs that they know will kind of just get them back on track. Yeah. So if you feel like you're losing a crowd, I mean, for me, it's always Dancing Queen usually seems to work pretty well. I'll play PIMP by 50 Cent is a very popular, or In the Club by 50 Cent.
Yep.
There's always those special handful of songs that you know will get them going.
And you have to know a lot of music.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, I'm constantly just as probably people are listening to podcasts every day, listening to the radio, watching TV, Netflix, you name it. My thing is listening to music. I'm constantly on the search for new remixes. I'm staying in tune to the trending songs that are coming out, and even kind of going back in the catalog. I mean, I'm been around my parents long enough to understand kind of what they listen to as well. I'm very inspired by that as well. I mean, I think the cool part about our generation now is we have so much access to the currently played music as well as all the way back to, 60s, 70s, up until now.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's cool.
We did a podcast on the 60s and 70s. Did you recognize some of that music?
I definitely knew Boston. I didn't know the DeFranco family, but I actually did just ask my dad about it, and my parents definitely knew them.
Your mother listened to it as a young girl, right?
My parents both knew the DeFrancos. Yeah.
All right, so Pete, in front of the world, I'm going to take criticism and I'm going to take some advice. What do you think we should do to make the podcast even more successful than what we've enjoyed so far?
Oh boy, that's a loaded question. I mean, as I was just recording right now, I don't think anyone really has the surefire figure out how to make this podcast going. I think the part of the joy and journey of it is really figuring it out along the way, and that's exactly what I'm doing with my DJing career. There's no one that's really said this is exactly how you do it. You kind of just post away, see what fits, have fun along the way. Yep. And I think the great part about how you set up your show is you're meeting so many people, you're really building these relationships, and I think it's just a matter of time where fire will start to catch and it'll start growing.
It'll just be
naturally, organically.
Even bigger. Yeah. You bet. Absolutely. Pete, thank you for everything you do for us. We really appreciate it. I'm so glad we got you in front of the camera.
Yeah, happy to be here. Now I'll go back to my closet. I'm clearly not getting much sunlight. So.
All right. Well, Ange, this is how we do it. It's fun, isn't it?
It's been fun.
Yeah, it's fun, and I'm so glad that you could be here. Thank you for it, and thank you for all your years of support, for all that I have done through the years. It's not, I don't think it's always been easy to be my sister, because I frequently call in the middle of the night or in very strange situations and beg for help. But you've been terrific, so thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Glad you were here.
Yep.
All right, glad you were here too, everybody. Be sure you follow us on social, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody, for listening to Carrigan & Company. To find out who will keep me company and be my co-host on the next episode, be sure you follow us on Instagram, Facebook, X, and TikTok. Carrigan & Company is recorded at the Big Night Studios at the TD Garden in Boston. You can view the podcast on YouTube and listen to it wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure you tell a friend. The executive producer of Carrigan & Company is David Thompson. Our engineer is Peter Hurley, and our social media managers are Grace Carrigan, Colby Thomson, and Riley Thompson. See you next time.